Good evening, everyone. I'm back. Good evening again. Good to see you guys on this cold night. First day after the big storm. It's the first snowstorm of the season. Hopefully the last one, but we we all know that it's not going to be the last one. So uh, let's get ready for the season that's just starting. So we're back once again for our meetings in English. Now in 2024, once again, every second Monday of the month we have a meeting in English that we follow and we go through the Gospel according to Spiritism, item or not item by item, but there are some topics each chapter. So we are still on chapter 13, but that's going to be later on before we do our initial prayer, and then we'll invite Nancy or Nancy to be here. She'll read a message for us from the book Our Daily Bread, message number 160, if I'm not mistaken. And then I'll be back to talk to you guys about the gospel according to Spiritism. And before that, let's do our prayer so that we can, and welcome as well if there's anyone watching online. We are online on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. If you ever are home stranded, you cannot come to the center. We usually have these meetings in English transmitted live, and on Saturdays at 7 we always have the meeting in Portuguese live on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook on our pages. So having said that, let's do our initial prayer just to thank God, our Creator, the one that gives us, and will always give us life so that we can keep learning how to love, how to improve ourselves, that we learn and that also we also learn to live together more, to share our feelings, share our lives with our friends, our loved ones, so that we can grow not only within ourselves, but also as a community, as a group of people that learn to love one another. So God, thank you once again for allowing us to be here tonight, to think about the gospel, the good news that was brought to us by our dear Master Jesus, that came here to show us how we can love, how we can love the others, how we can love ourselves so that we can love, love, and love. May your blessings and your love fall upon us now and always. So be it. So let's invite Nancy, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Good evening, everyone. The tonight's message is from our daily bread, number 160, and the title is The Great Battle. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the power of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Paul, Ephesians 6:12. According to the reiterated affirmations, the great battle does not actually reside in the blood and flesh, but rather with our inferior spiritual. Paul of Tarsus acted superbly inspired when he wrote his recommendation to his companies of Ephesus. The silent and incessant conflict between the earnest disciple and the force of the shadows is found in our own personal nature, because we became open accomplices with evil in our remote past. We have been declared participants in unlawful actions in celestial places. And even today, between the condensed fluids of the flesh or and the closer spheres, we act in the service of self restoration in plain paradise. The earth is also a sublime stepping stone toward heaven. When someone refers to the fallen angels, the human listeners immediately get an impression of a superb and mysterious palace from which wives and luminous beings are expelled. Isn't it also similar to the educated individual who turns into an assassin in front of a university or a temple? Generally, the observer of earth relates to the crime. However, he does not stop to analyze the sacred and vulnerable place in which it occurred. The great battle that the apostle refers to continues incessantly. The cities and the human constructions are celestial zones. Neither they nor the organic cells that are of service to us constitute the powerful enemies, but rather, quote, open quote, the spiritual force of view, unquote, with which we synchronize through the inferior areas that we desperately hold on to. They are a vast group of souls and somber thoughts that obscure human vision and operate cunningly so as not to lose their active companions of yesterday. Thank you.
I am back. So thank you, Nancy. And so I'd like to I'd like to start because I read the message that Nancy just read for us, and I find that the ending of this message is very interesting, and it kind of has a connection to what we're going to talk about tonight. So the translation that I have here, because this book was written in Portuguese, and there are a few translations of this. Um, doesn't really matter in the end, but the title of the message that I have here it's called The Great Struggle instead of The Great Battle, which is in the end the same thing. But I find that this message, and I would highly recommend you guys to read the message again later on when you have some time. You can look for it in Portuguese. The book is available, the messages are available everywhere, so it's easy to find it online. Just put the name of the book and the chapter number, you'll be able to find the message. Um, but I find that this message it brings to us or brings to me a connection to what we're gonna talk about. And as I said, we're gonna talk about chapter 13 from the book, and this is one of the covers, the Gospel According to Spiritism, and it's chapter 13, which is do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. And the items that we're going to talk about are items 9 and 10. And this week we are starting, or this month, or with this topic tonight, we are entering this section of the Gospel according to Spiritism, of each chapter, where we have messages from spirits that were already discarnated, and then messaged, uh, they wrote messages about certain topics. And then Kardec, when he was organizing the the Gospel according to Spiritism, he divided each chapter into two sections, basically. The first section is a section where he grabs a small passage or a passage the uh, from the Bible. Most of it is from the New Testament, but there are some items, or there are some in some chapters, in some topics, that he grabs pieces and passages from the Old Testament as well. And then after he writes this, and he grabs and he cites Matthew or whatever, Paul or one of the Gospels, he writes something about it. Then he gives the comments. Then after he finalizes this first section, he created this second section, which he names it Instructions from the Spirits. And then he gets messages from spirits that were given in the meetings where he was part of, or sometimes where he was not part of. These messages were sent to him from other spiritist groups across Europe, and were sent to him. Then he organizes it. He was publishing these messages in the Spiritist magazine for a very long time, for about 11 years, until he died. And he selected messages that talked about the main topic of the chapter that he created. So for this specific topic, or for this specific chapter, we're talking about, and we've been talking about the chapter for, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks now, but it's about not doing good to others, but not to boost or to boast myself, saying, "Hey, I'm the greatest person in the world. I'm doing good to you. I'm doing the best for everybody. I am so." It's actually a balance in between doing good to others and really learning how to be humble, and how to kind of hide yourself behind what's been done, and then let goodness speak for itself. Not because of me, not because it was I who did it, but because the good needs to be done, and it doesn't matter who does it. So then Kardec grabs these messages and organizes in this part. So it is very interesting the way he does this, because he grabs messages from people that sometimes we know the name, sometimes we have no idea who that person is. But that is very interesting as well. And when we are studying more and more about Spiritism, what we really tend to understand and have a better grasp on is it doesn't matter the name. The name is the least of the things. The most important is what's behind the message that's being brought to us, and that's what he does. And just to have a small parenthesis here, the second book of Spiritism is called the Medium's Book. So in the Medium's Book, there's a section at the very end of the book where he talks exactly about this, about what does a name mean on a message that was received from a spirit. And he, of course, he says it means nothing. And then he gives an example of a message that was given and it was signed by Jesus. So Jesus signed the message. Then when you analyze the message, you see that it could not be Jesus. So it is as if like the Spirit wants us to, oh, it's Jesus that wrote the message. But I mean, I know a few Jesuses. Probably you guys have met some Jesuses. I know a person that his name is Jesus. So what if comes a spirit and writes a message and is Jesus? But Jesus is the whatever, is the guy that works with Fabricio or works with me. It can be. So we're not taking the message as Jesus because, oh, the name Jesus, then it brings, oh, the name of the guy is Einstein. There are so many people probably in Germany that are called Einsteins. So what's in a name, right? So that's one of the main things. And that's how Kardec chooses the messages. It doesn't matter what the name is. There are some messages here that are called, they don't even have names. It's a protector spirit. It's a friend. But if he reads the message and the message follows the idea, the main idea of the good news, of the gospel, of the idea of doing good to others, of helping us to get out of or be consoled or have a better understanding of life or making improvements. That's how he chose to put the messages here. And I'd like to point out, because it's been a while since the last time I talked about this and I mentioned this. So when I was reading, I said, oh, that's interesting. But also, I also decided to talk about this. When I first read the first message for tonight's topic, because the message was written in Paris in 1860. That's what it says here in the book. And it was written by a person whose name is Rosalie. But she was a sister. So she is a Catholic nun. So, and not only because she is a sister, but because there are some specific things that she says in this message that, despite the fact that I am going to talk about the topic for tonight, but I'm going to focus a little bit different way than what I would usually do it, because of this, because she is a sister, and we have an image of what a sister is, of what a nun is, right? We have an image of how they behave, what they do, how they act, what they do for a living, right? We have this idea of how they live. And also because of of the message that Nancy read tonight, because I was already thinking about this when I started reading and thinking, how am I going to present this topic? Because I mean, to me, it's something that's so clear, and I haven't even said the name of the topic, but it's material charity. So charity that we do to others materially. So we give or we donate stuff to people, right, that are in need, Maybe I'm donating food. Maybe I'm donating means. Maybe I'm donating money or whatever. However we are doing. So the topic is material charity and moral charity. So it's for us to think about these two things, materially and morally, or spiritually, or however we want to say it, but moral charity and material charity. And this topic is Kardec's name for it. But these two messages, one is from Sister Rosalie, and the other one is from, like I said, a person that has no name. It's just a protecting spirit. It's just a spirit, probably of one of the, if we are having a mediumistic meeting, we usually have a table, and then people are sitting around, and then they are either receiving messages for spirits that are coming to be helped, or if there's a lot of people or a lot of different mediums, they might be receiving a message, just a generic message or a general message to distribute to other people, like Chico Xavier used to do with Emmanuel, to get messages transforming books, and so on and so forth. And some of these spirits, just like Emmanuel and Chico Xavier. So Emmanuel was Chico Xavier's protecting spirit, but he had a name. We know his name. But there are some others that we all have protecting spirits, and we don't know their names. So we can call them just a protecting spirit. So these two messages, one is from Sister Rosalie, and the other one is from this protecting spirit. But why am I focusing so much about on this? Because and it's I'm talking about myself. I'm just talking about me. I when I usually when I talk about these topics, I tend to focus a lot on what we can do here. And I don't talk too much about the spirit world. Why do I do this? I do this because uh, I think there's already enough people that talk about the spirit world and what's going to happen. And to me, my idea is always to focus on what we can do here now. And then whatever the consequence of what I'm doing here now will be felt later on when I die, or most of the times even while I'm still walking here, incarnated. So I tend not to talk too much about the other world. Tend to, of course, I talk about it, but not. I tend to not to talk too much. But what I find interesting about this message, at least, especially the first message from Sister Rosalie, is that she invites us to do whatever we can while incarnated. But what she does that I find very interesting is that um, she mentions herself. She tells us a little bit. She doesn't go into details, but she gives us kind of hints of what she was doing when she was here. So she says, for example, um, she asks us to do and help people that are poor, that are in need. And when we think of a nun, especially in the 1860s or in the 1800s, there were, if there are people hungry now, there were even more people hungry then. And because the governments would not do a lot for them, that's where the church would go into, right? And that's where still churches and spiritist centers go into, because the government doesn't do everything for a lot of people that can't have food, for example. I'm not talking about the United States specifically, although we know that there are people that are hungry here too. A lot of people hungry here too, right? Um, so there are churches and there are groups that go and help these. So imagine a nun in the 1800s, what she was doing. She was probably like trying to help other people. So that's what she would say. And then she says, it's hard to read just a little bit because because it's so interesting, this text, and I would highly recommend, like I always do, but I mean, it's so interesting the way she puts it. So she says there would be no more poverty because all the poor people would be fed from the superfluity of the rich. Today I was talking to a friend of ours here from the group, Antonio. Everybody knows Antonio. And we were talking about the construction that he's doing. And then he was talking about his boss, or the person that hired him to build whatever he's doing. And he says, it's so, sometimes I go to the dumpster and I see this machine that's brand new inside the dumpster. The guy bought the machine, used once, and then throw it in a dumpster. The machine was $350. And I grabbed it for myself. I have two now. Do you want the other one? He asked me and said, why not? So that's what she's talking about here. And this is one person, one person, one example. And he said that he does it all the time. And I'm not judging. I'm just telling the story just because it matches exactly to what she is telling us here. She says, and I'm going to read it again, there would be no more poverty because all the poor people would be fed from the superfluity of the rich. It's $350 that were literally going to be thrown away. And because he already has one, he doesn't need the other one, but he took it anyways because it was a newer than the other one that he already has. So he was gonna throw the other one away because it's a new. But then she goes further, and that's where I want to stop. Neither would poor women be seen dragging wretched children along the dark and somber streets where I lived during my last incarnation. So she would be working, she would be trying to help people, and she would see poor women holding the hands of children that had probably no clothes or very bad clothes, were hungry, were sick. And we still see this today. And then she points, where I lived during my last incarnation, which she doesn't know where it was. She doesn't tell us where it was when we don't know where it was. But does it matter? It doesn't matter. Because we still see it today. We still know how it is. So she's saying, and she starts this message by saying, love one another and do to others what we would wish done to us. That's how she starts from the beginning. And that's what she was trying to do. At least that's what we gather from what she is telling us, right? And that is very important for the whole message. This beginning is very important for the entire message. Because later on she will tell us that, oh, I should have written this on the PowerPoint, but you can read it later. Oh, if you could know, I'm going to read it again. Oh, if you could but know the joy I felt, or the joy felt when, on reaching the world beyond, when I died. Oh, if you could only know, understand the joy, the happiness, the feeling of goodness that I felt when I found those whom I had been given to serve. All the joy that I was able to have, to feel when I found those on the other side that I was able to help. That's why I was saying that I usually don't talk about the other world, but with this message here, it's very, very unwise of me not to mention that whatever we do here, we will feel when we get to the other side. It's our, as Emmanuel says in a message, it is our piggy bank where we are putting our little cents of the things that we are doing and collecting. And then when we get there, we say, oh my goodness, see how much have I saved? And then I'm able to rejoice myself not because of a selfish pride, but because when I get there, I say, oh my goodness, I'm so free of all the stuff that I don't need and I left behind, and all that I have now is just the joy of having done something, of recognizing in myself that I was able to do something for someone. Or if it's not for one person, that I was able to do something for a community, for a small community, for a small group, for whatever it is. I have this colleague at work, and I used to say this, or I did mention her a few times here, I guess, or once or twice. Um, and She's an architect. When I started working there, she was already working there. She is the daughter of the owner of the company, but she's been working with him since she was 15 years old, and now she's, I don't know, maybe 40, whatever the age is. And when I started working there, I would hear sometimes, talking, and I would talk to her, and she would come and say, "Oh, her father would ask her what she would be doing, what did you do in the week on the weekend, and so on." She said, "Oh, this weekend we went out with a group of friends from the street to clean the street because the street was so dirty, and a lot of people like throwing trash on this small park on this. So we just gathered a bunch of people and started like." We scheduled for this past Sunday, whatever, from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, whatever the time was, and then we went all there to do and clean that area, and then they would do and clean the area. So she was doing this, and then people started like getting to her and say, "Hey, let's do this, let's do this." So because she wanted, or because I don't know if it was her that started or someone else, but she started enjoying doing this, right? Now, I've been working there since 17, so it's gonna be 7 years now, right? Last year, November, she um, turned out that she was elected to be the mayor of the town. So now she's the mayor of the town. And that's how she started. And I'm not saying that do this so you're gonna be mayor. No, I don't wish to you guys to be mayor. I don't wish this bad thing for you. No, no. There's this there's this American president. I don't know if it was Lyndon Johnson, whoever it was. He says while he was in charge and things were not going very well during the around the time of the Vietnam War, and then he was talking about his life and how the situation was pretty bad. And he says, and there's a quote that I don't remember, but the idea of the quote is, I tell myself that um, every situation could be really bad and it could be worse. So what I'm living right now, being the president of the United States, it could be really worse. I could be a mayor, for example. So, so to see how he thinks the work of being a mayor is tough. So that's why I said I don't wish this on you. Um, but getting back to what I was doing, I mean, it doesn't matter what we want to do. It doesn't matter in what level we want to do. If we want to do and if we can do within our small group, we can do it here, just like we do when we have our yard sale, when we have our small stuff here, when we have our lunch or our dinners on Saturdays, or everybody helps whoever can. It's a small thing, but it's a thing for the group, so. And we do this outside. We do this at the hospital that I work. We do this at where I work. There's a person in need of a word, in need of something. Why don't we listen? Why don't we sit down a little bit and have a conversation? Try to raise the spirits of the person. That's the part of the moral charity that she talks about, and that the other spirit here talks about too. We have the opportunity of doing so many different things, right? And that's what she talks about when she says, "Oh, if you could feel now the joy that I felt when I came to this side of life, and then I was able to find those whom I was given the opportunity to serve. And see that she does the other way around. She doesn't say that she was the one that was helping. No, she was given the opportunity. The sorry, the opportunity came to her, and she took the opportunity and did something, right? And she was having the opportunity of doing something. So I was given the opportunity to serve those people, and I did something, and that's a joy. Yeah, that's a joy that I could have, if that I can have, that we can have, and we will have once we get to that point. And what I find interesting is. I don't know if you guys have that or if you guys had that, and I'm assuming that yes, that you had that. But isn't it, to me at least, it is a great joy when and now I'm here speaking in English, so of course you all understand that I've been through a bunch of things to be able to speak in English. I was not born here. I was not educated in English, so I have my I have struggled to thank you, Adriana. I have struggled to be where I am, but I am where I am. So in the process of switching from Portuguese to English, not switching, but from one day being able to not only speak in Portuguese but be able to also speak in English, there were moments where I doubted myself. Of course, everybody doubts yourself, right? It's natural. It's a process of learning. It's the process of am I capable of doing this? I was talking to Dora about not about this, but about other things the other day, and then she realized that she is capable of doing whatever she's doing now. And the same thing with me, and I bet that you all everybody here had the same thing, not with a language, not no, with something that we doubted ourselves that we could do it. And once we realize that our effort allowed me, or my effort allowed me to go from here to here, and you realize that I mean, can look at myself and think of myself and say, "Oh, that was a great moment." That was a moment of joy, a moment of recognition that I was able to do it. And I had this like recently. I'm struggling to learn a different language now, and I'm learning the language. But now I'm already at the point where I can talk to other people in that other language. And then when I'm able not only to say something, but also to understand and reply back, it's another joy that comes to me. So that to me, it's a very simple example of what she's talking about, of this joy when we are able to see that what we did, that what we do is able to lift people up. And I'm not talking about lifting people up with money only, with food only, but also with different types of things in life. When a person is going through a hard time, be it financially, be it because they lost a loved one, or because they are going through a separation, going through a problem at work, and then or a health problem, and then you talk, and then you you listen to the person, or you just like are able to do. Some people are better at this than other people, but whatever and however we want to do it, if we do it and when we do it, it is lifting. I remember one day I was listening to this. Actually, my brother sent me this a long time ago. I guess almost when I arrived here. That's I don't know, 2004, 2005, something like that. He was listening to this to a show on NPR. Then he found a link online to that specific show or to that specific conversation, and this girl was she was talking about how she got away from addiction. I think she was I don't remember, but she was, I don't know, cocaine, whatever it was. It doesn't matter. So, and then the interviewer was talking to her, and she says, "Do you?" And the interviewer asks her, "Do you remember? Do you know who was the person that told you something that made you realize that you needed to change? Because one of the things that she had just said was that once I realized that I needed to change, that's when I was able to start doing something for myself. Yeah, that exactly, that aha moment. So the interviewer at that moment, she asked, or I think it was a woman interviewing, she asked, do you know who and what was told? And she says, no, I cannot point to one person. But I can tell you this: all the people that told me something throughout the years, they are all responsible for me changing. Because I cannot say that that person told me this and I followed what she said, because most of the time I would not do it. I would not want it. I would be angry at the person. But they never stopped letting me know that they were there for me, and that if you needed to change, if you want to change, I'll be there for you. And because do it. But if there's an opening, if the person is talking to me about the problem, I will say something. Because at that moment, that person is inviting me to say something. Even if the person doesn't know, but she's inviting me. I had bad I had bad experiences with this, but I'm still happy with what I said because the person opened up. If the person opened up, it is because she wants to hear, even if she doesn't like it. But if the person is not talking about the problem, and I know the problem, but no, I'm gonna be so say something. It's one of the ways that we can help, and that's what she's talking about. Do something. Pray if we want to. That's another way of helping. That's another way of moral helping or moral charity. Uh, and materially, we all know how to do materially. And we talked about as well in one of the previous ones. One of the things that I always remember is um, don't the same way if a person doesn't want to hear or doesn't want to. So if we want to donate or to give something to someone, don't make it look like as if you're the big one and the other one is the small one looking for it, because this is just humiliating. So find a way. Let's find a way of not looking as if you're better or if no, it's part of what we do. It's the same for everybody. Whenever we need, whenever people need, we are here to help. And that's it. It's not because we have more, it's not because we are more. No, it's because it's standard to do. If I need, I will come and be helped. It's not me now, it's someone else. Oh, some other people came here for help. They were also helped. So make it the same level. Just like education. When we want to talk to children, educators, they say, lower yourself to the level of the educator, of the children, or of the student. So if you want to talk seriously with the kid that's doing something wrong, you lower yourself down to his or her level, or put him up to your level so that you both are at the same level, so that you don't look up and down, so you don't create a fear. You create an environment of acceptation, an environment of love. There was this video that I saw this week that I found to be very, very, very interesting. The mother, we don't know the beginning of the video. We don't know what happened before. We only see this moment where the mother is talking to the kid, and the kid is looking at her, and she looks at him, and she says something like this. She says, I love you. I love you when you do the right things, but I also love you when you do the wrong things. Because it's not because you do the right things that I love you. And it's not because you do the wrong things that I'm not going to love you. I love you no matter what. So she goes on and she says many more things. But that's the idea. right? It's the idea of creating this environment where we can help without being like bigger, smaller, being better, being worse. No, it's that we can do something for whoever. It doesn't matter who comes. If it's in the house, and we know that it is hard, nothing, I guess, that we say that we can do, that we are able to do, in this sense of being charitable towards others. There are some times where this is very, very hard, very, very hard, because when we are talking about a person that I never saw and then I'm going to help, but what if that person is the person that lives with me? And that the person in that day, that she was not going well or he was not going well, that she had a problem, he had a problem, and we are there, and then for whatever reason, I'm the person that he or she will come and talk and say stuff, and uh, how do I not reply back? How do I not do the same thing back? Holding to say at the right time, at the right tone, at the right moment, instead of escalating things up, to tone things down, calm things down, and then later on we go back to the situation and say something, because we all know that if it's at the heat of the moment, everything will not be under control. Not doing it at that moment, that's charity. We don't look at this as being charitable, but that's charity too, because it's good for me and it's good for the other. It's a demonstration of love. Of love for whom? Of love for myself in the first place, but also in love for the other person, which we know that that person is doing that. It's not because I am, it's because he or she is feeling, but it's not because of me. And even if it is because of me, because of something that I did, maybe it's a different way of, there's a different way of looking at the situation, of trying to explain the situation, and of circulating the situation so that you can look at it from a different point of view and then calm things down. But this is hard. So it might sometimes be easy for people on the outside, but for us who think of this, of charity, not only for other people and not only with money or with things, it goes to a different level. Remember that I mention this all the time, or most of the time when and I think that in the previous talks about this chapter I mentioned this. So I like the idea of the jump in the Olympics, where the runner comes and then jumps over the bar, right? And I mention this all the time, that Jesus didn't come to lower the bar. He came to raise the bar. He came to look at us and say, hey, this you should have been doing for a very long time, because it's already there in the Old Testament. Love one another. It's not Jesus that taught us. He didn't come to teach us that, because the teaching is already in the past. Whatever he cites, it's already there. Just go to Deuteronomy, go to Numbers, go to Leviticus. We're going to find a lot of what Jesus is teaching us, is telling us back there. He didn't come to write any books, because all the books that were probably needed to be written were already written. He came to show how to do it, which is a completely different thing. It says, love God above everything else. That's what he did. Because he says it's love God above everybody else. But also, and if you don't understand that, love one another, which is similar. Love as you love yourself. And this is similar to the other one. And all these two sentences are in the Old Testament. That's what he did. And you know what else he taught us? He said, we have to be good to other people. But there were some times when people came to him and people wanted to pick him. People wanted to look at him and say, hey, what are you trying to do? And he would look at the eyes of the person. And to me, that's a very, very hard teaching. Very, very hard. How can I look at someone with love, like Jesus would look at us with love, and look at us and say, you are a hypocrite? Not with hate, not with wanting the other one to look down, but to tell him that you are not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And you know it. That's the worst part. But not to say this with hate, with wanting to put the other one down, but with love. And that's what I think sometimes we fail to understand, and how much we fail to understand what Jesus came to teach us. Because there was nothing that he did, absolutely nothing that he did without love. Even the harsh words. But it's hard for us to understand it. Because when we say harsh words, we usually say it because we are angry, because we are not able to control ourselves, because we are not able to hold back something that I'm holding back for 10 years. Then I don't want to say it, and then I say it because I'm angry, or because someone stepped on my toes, and then now I'm going to say it. I never wanted to say it, but I started somewhere, because when it happens, then I say it. So I didn't forget, right? And that's one part of this charity, the moral charity, that we need to train. We need to practice. If we don't practice, and the practice is not just to hold back. We need to hold back some stuff, but not to hold back and then store it to be used later. But it's to hold back and learn a way to let it go. It is hard. It is very hard. One of the techniques is to talk to the other person once things are calmer. Once you have the opportunity to try at least to start talking when things are better. Then we say, hey, what happened the other day? Why did this happen? And look, I'm not saying this to you guys. I'm saying this to myself, because it happens to all of us. To all of us. And I mentioned two things that she did, right? Our sister Rosalie here. So she was in the last incarnation. She was roaming the streets, looking at those and helping them. And she even says that I was so happy when I was on the other side, and then I found people that I was able to help. And that brought me so much joy. Then she goes on talking and giving examples. Some of them I gave here, some others I don't remember. But she says something else that I want to finish with, because it will show us what I already mentioned, that we all need help, and that we should never look to others from a different level, that we should always lower ourselves down to that level, not in spiritually speaking, but to not to feel bigger than the other. Put ourselves at the same level. That's being humble. It's to be at the same level. It's not to be lower, neither upper. It's to be at the same level, equalize. And then we can go into the other person, and the other person can go into me. So she says at one point, like I said, that's what I'm going to finish with. She says, let's see where I start. She says, remember everything I have told you. So take whatever I told you up to this moment as if it were her that said. And that if you repel a poor or needy person, if a person comes for help, doesn't matter what it is, if it's for food, for an advice, doesn't matter. She says, that if you repel a person, a needy person, you may perhaps, maybe be repelling, sending away a spirit who was once dear to you. And then she is getting to the idea of not only one life, but multiple lives, who temporarily finds him or herself in an inferior position than you. So someone comes to help, for help, and then you, for whatever reason, you don't want to help. That's the situation that she's inviting us to think about. So that she wants us to think about so that we can practice helping. Doesn't matter who it is. I have found here, so she goes back to where she is. She is discarnated. She is writing the message. She is in the spiritual realm. She says, I found here one of the destitute from earth, whom I happily had been able to help several times. I was able to help, she says, I was able to help several times. And from whom, in my turn, and now in my turn, I must now implore help. So, when I started, I said, we know what a nun is. We have an idea of what a nun is. Is a person that lives to serve, basically. They all have their problems, of course. They are humans. We're not putting her or them in a position of perfection. But imagine that a person that's living at that moment with that intent in her head of helping other people, that's what she lives to do. That's what she lives to do. And she helped a lot of people, and she helped this person a lot of times. And now she's on the other side and she needs help, even having helped a lot of people, but she still needs help. And who is she begging for help? To help her? The person that she helped. Because that person, being at that moment in a position that was inferior to her, when they both died, that person that was inferior to her is actually superior to her. We never know what that person was. We never know how much that person lived, what she did or what he did to his life. We don't know what the nun did, what the sister did to her life. But roles can be reversed. And that's one of the things that I would like to, that when I read this, and like I said many times, I guess, before, no matter how many times you read these texts, there will always be something new. Because I have read this message so many times before, but because of the combination of the message that Nancy read, that invites us to struggle, not only, it's not about the spirits that are making us suffer. It's about our spirit, us, our problems from the past that make us suffer. And because for whatever reason, my eye went straight to sister, and then when she was talking about the spiritual world, and made me see this message in a whole different light today. So it's an invitation for all of us, for me, for you, for the ones who are online, whoever is watching this, for our exercise, to exercise what she asks us from the beginning, to love one another and to do to others what we would wish done to us. We would wish It's not do to others when the others do to you. No, it's do to others what you would like if you ever needed that some people would do to you. So you do it first. You throw it to the universe and let the universe bring it back to me whenever, because that's not what I'm expecting. I have to do it because that's my duty. That's what goodness is in the world. The sun rises every day. It doesn't matter if there's snow. It doesn't matter if it's cold. The sun is rising. At one point, we will be able to see it. Oh, it is hard when it snows. But then you look at what Fabricio did. Bring the drone up and show us the beauty of the town with all that white. It's amazing to see it. It is hard sometimes. It is tough. He also showed the machine trying to remove the snow from the ground, but it is pretty. And if we enjoy, we enjoy. So it's that kind of feeling that we will have once we realize what it is good to do good. It is good to do charity, materially or morally speaking. And my invitation is always read the message, chapter 13, items 9 and 10. There will be much more inside the text that I was able to talk here, but it was a very, very interesting. It is a very, very interesting read from Sister Rosalie and from that protecting spirit. And with this, I'd like to thank you all for coming once again. Next week we will be back to the meetings in Portuguese. Last weekend we had this girl that came from New Jersey. She gives a very, very interesting topic about the power of our will, of the will, and it's online, and anyone can anyone can watch. And the last weekend of this month, we will have Deborah, which will always also come from New Jersey. And she's awesome. She was here last year. She will be here in the end of February on Saturday. The talk will be in Portuguese, but she will be here. Everybody is invited to come. And meanwhile, or with this, let's finish today's meeting. Gonna do a prayer, and our passes will be collective with all together. We're not gonna have the individual passes tonight. So let's focus, and let's think about the good energies that surround us all the time, by saying and thinking about our dear Master Jesus when he was with us, walking, talking, teaching, living his life, and showing us, not only when he was talking to us, but when he was walking with us, when he was curing those people who came looking for him when they were sick of the body, but also, and most importantly, so many that looked for him when they were sick of their minds, of their spirits. And when he looks at us and we allow him to come within our hearts, he will say, Jesus entered your house today. Salvation entered your house today. Because that's what he represents. Not that he will do everything for us, but that his presence, together with our will to change, allows us to be able to gather more energy from the world for us to do what we need to do to our bodies, to our minds, to be the change that the world wants to have. Jesus, at this moment, we would like to invite you to enter our hearts, to go into our minds and bring light to those dark corners so that we can know these dark places. And by knowing them, we know that we need to bring light from time to time so that we are able to clean them and to remove the dirt and the dust that we've been collecting for centuries. So thank you for your help, for this light, for the peace that you bring to us, for us to be able to rest and to work with you, for our dear God, so that we all can make this world, our inner world, but also the world we live in, a better place, a place full of love and full of peace, because that peace is starting within ourselves. So for tonight, we would like to thank you for the blessings, for the good spirits that you sent to us, to embrace us, to leave that good energy that can help us heal our bodies and heal our souls. So thank you, Master, for always being with us. And thank you, Master, for staying with us. For we know that you love us when we do the right things, but also when we struggle to do them. With this prayer, take us home in peace. Bring all of us to our houses, to our work, and stay with us, not only tonight, but always. So be it. So that's it for tonight. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here, despite the cold weather outside. Oh, the weather outside is frightful.